Good evening and welcome, everyone. It's an absolute joy to be here, to be with all of you. And thank you for your encouraging response. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for taking time out from what I know would be a busy schedule and spending a part of your evening with all of us. There have been messages and emails coming to me saying, thank you, Elle, for this kind of a session. It's much needed. And some of them have even asked me, Elle, who do you consider as an empowered woman? So let me tell you very briefly who I consider an empowered woman. And then you will be able to understand why these 4 delightful women have been invited by me, because they fall directly into my definition of the empowered woman. For me, the empowered woman is one who has gone through her personal challenges, her personal traumas, her personal griefs, emotions, the roller coaster rides. Sometimes she has been abused, sometimes she has been violated, sometimes she has been judged, sometimes she has definitely been wronged. But instead of allowing any of these to push her down, each of these experiences has made her even stronger. And every time she has been pushed down, she has risen even higher. And in that, I think the empowered woman thanks every single person who made an attempt to put her down. But there are those out there, both men and women. And that is why this panel discussion is not really only for women. It's for the feminine energy that is within all of us. This feminine energy is within man and woman. And there are those who are living lives of defeat and resignation. And I know that our 4 delightful ladies and I would like to reach out to them, to tell them that there is hope, there is faith, but more than anything else, to show them that there is a way. And you can find your own unique way, which is neither wrong nor right. And you don't need validation from anyone else. Find your way. Find an empowered woman. You can reach out to one of our panelists or more and ask someone to help you, to hold your hand while you find that way. Once you find that way, you will be joyous that you are reaching out to so many others and helping them find their way. We are 5 ladies on this panel today. Not one of us has had what you might call a completely easy life. We have had our moments of great darkness. We have had our emotional turmoils. We have had our times of anger. We have had our times of fear. Yes, we have also had our times of judgment. And yes, we have fallen. But we have not allowed any of this to defeat us. And so today we can hold our head up high and stand on our own feet and say, I am an empowered woman, and I reach out my hand, my head, and my heart to you so that you too can join our growing band of empowered women. The divine Shakti principle has now risen and has found a firm foundation on our earth plane. It is now up to you and I, dear friends, to give Shakti her vision, to ensure that Shakti speaks, and to ensure that Shakti lives unashamedly amongst us all. And with that, I welcome all of you today. but more specifically and gratefully, I welcome Farida, Vanita, Anupriya, and Sanaeya. I met Farida a very short while ago, and it has been as though I've known her forever and a day. Her strength resonates with my strength. I see in her the strong feminine Shakti. Vanita and I go back a long, long time. We are old friends. We may not talk to each other very often, but we live in each other's hearts always. And I know that today her role here is going to be vital for many, many of you with what she has to share. Anupriya has remained a student of mine when I was a high school teacher many years ago. And from being this delightfully giggly, high-spirited, high energy, amazingly talented young girl, today I see before me a giggly, high-spirited, high-talented, high energy, wonderful young lady who I am so proud to now meet her on an even keel, where there is no more ma'am or miss, and it's Elle and Anupriya. And last, but certainly not the least, is a panelist I am honored and blessed to call my daughter, Sanaeya. Of course, I've known her all her life. And Sanaeya's journey has been one that has inspired me. When I have seen my own daughter struggle with her personal challenges, and I shall not tell you about them, I'd leave it to her to tell you. It is she who inspired me to reach out to young men and women, teenagers and children, so that there is always someone who a troubled child, a troubled teenager, a troubled young adult can reach out to. She has been my inspiration in so much of the work that I do. In spite of that, there are times when I realize I am her mother. I'm also a spiritual counselor. And yet, some of her challenges, even I cannot understand. And this is important for us all to know. Everyone's challenge is very real to them. You and I may not understand them completely. Sometimes we may not understand them at all. But let us not ever say that their challenge is, it's in your mind only. It's, come on, get along with life. You don't have to feel this way. No one, none of us should ever say these things to people, to anyone, whether they are our families, our friends, or anyone who we are helping. And with this, let me start by introducing you to Vanita Naval. Vanita has a base in science and management. She spent 10 fulfilling years of her life in corporate human resources. This contributed to her understanding of the human potential. Her volunteer work of more than 9 years with suicide prevention helplines in Delhi, Mumbai, and now in Bangalore has helped her to understand the human emotional condition. She is now proudly co-founded one suicide prevention helpline in Bangalore. We shall be giving you the details of these. In Bangalore, where she now lives, we miss her in Mumbai, and practices there her therapies in alternate healing modalities like angelic Reiki, hypnotherapy, NLP, and Bach flower remedies. Her knowledge of esoteric and ancient wisdom that she has received from her mentors and schools of philosophies helps her today to integrate these diverse learnings into her own unique wisdom. Like a river finding a path of least resistance, Vanita's motto is, "What you resist persists." This motto helps her to navigate life. Her strengths become the strong banks between which her life flows, and her challenges become the interesting points. Along with the force of life's current, today Vanita shows the path to many, many people and helps them to find their own goals. Thank you, Vanita, for so readily saying yes to my invitation to this panel. Farida Dariwala. As I said, I met Farida just very few short months ago, but I am so happy that I have met her. For me, it is an inspiration when my life is filled with people like Farida. She has had quite a roller coaster journey, from a fearful, bedwetting child, a survivor of cruel, painful female genital mutilation, an out to please teenager, a duty-bound daughter, a loser, her words, a loser in love and relationships, a divorced and broken wife, a single parent striving hard to bring up a child. She was all of these, but there was a time when she was not she, the goddess within. What kept her going through all of this was her faith and her enthusiasm, an inner urging to not only be her own unique voice, but to ensure that she is the catalyst that helps others to find their unique voice. The inner revolution that she experienced over so many years today has emerged as an evolution of mind, body, spirit. And Farida is a therapist, a coach, a teacher, a psychic medium, a channel, and a bringer of the new age wisdom. She provides for all a place where you can restore, recover, discover, and recreate yourself with love, respect, and honor for who you are. Farida's motto is, and she encapsulates it in a quote from Alexander Pope: "Hope springs eternal in the human breast." Thank you, Farida, for coming into my life and for coming onto this panel. Anupriya Banerjee Puthran, a creative director and a drama therapist. And I'm so happy she is all of this. She has put her immense talent, and she really is very talented in music and dance and drama. And today she uses these gifts to help others as a drama therapist. She is the founder of Dr. Drama, an online portal that has been in existence since 2017, dedicated to offering DIY self-care rituals that are rooted in drama therapy, documentaries about creative and expressive art, therapeutic theater, private and group therapy, She is also the assistant program coordinator in the Expressive Arts Therapy Diploma course at the St. Xavier's College in Mumbai. It gives me joy, it gives me pride, and I am thrilled beyond words that Anupriya is with me today. Sanaeya, my daughter, my firstborn. After completing her BMM from Jai Hind College, Mumbai, Sanaeya started her career as a copywriting intern by working for a year with L&K Saatchi and Saatchi. After this, with just 1 year of internship, Sanaeya found an inner strength, an inner drive, and an inner ambition to start freelance work for herself as a content writer. And as is so often seen, the universe always rewards the strength and self-honor. And before she could say, hey presto, Sanaeya was flooded with large and well-known brands that she worked with, like Mahindra, Reliance, the Aditya Birla Group, Tata, and Hindustan Lever, to just name a few. She then found even more courage and launched her own personal marketing and communications company, Comscribe Communication Solutions, that today she heads. While founding this company and while running it and setting it up and getting it off its feet, Sanaeya took on another challenge, and she enrolled for a rigorous 2-year Harvard program, and very successfully got her postgraduate in marketing management through a distance program run by the very prestigious Harvard University. Today, Comscribe Solution is a well-established, fast-growing company employing a large team of freelancers who cater to the unique needs of all clients, most of whom are corporate clients spanning varied industries. Sanaeya is also well aware that it is important to give back. And so pro bono work is also something that Sanaeya is interested in. Today, she works very actively with the We Care Foundation that help cancer survivors, cancer patients, as well as the caregivers who are looking after cancer patients. Thank you, Sanaeya. Thank you for doing this. I know you do not like coming on public media like this, even though media is your line of work, but thank you for coming here. So let's start the ball rolling by each panelist telling us in just 2 sentences what you believe is the empowered women. So Farida, let's start with you. Who, according to you, is the empowered woman?
Hi, Elle and everyone. Thank you so much. I'm really grateful being here. And I will straight away start with an empowered woman. For me, every woman is empowered. Every single woman out there is completely empowered. She just needs to be reminded about it. When she remembers who she is, we are talking about a woman, which also has WOM, like the womb, birthing generations. This woman is responsible for that. So imagine how empowered she already is. So that power that is there in her, she uses this to remember, okay, I am empowered. So how do I do this? So for me, every woman is empowered. Whenever I look at somebody, I just see that power within. And it's so beautiful, you know, when you look at them, when you look at each one of us is powerful. That maid who comes to work, that domestic help, everyone, look at them. So much of power, so much of determination to be out there. So yes, every woman is ill. Every woman is, my dear ones. Every woman is.
Thank you. Thank you, Farida. That was amazing. I loved that WOM, the womb that births generations. Fabulous. Love it. Vanita, what about you?
Hi, Elle, and hello, everyone. It's such a pleasure and my honor to be here with you all. I would say that the empowered woman is one who is living life to her best potential. Every person who, whether it's a man, woman, or any sex in between, feels empowered when their physical needs, their safety needs, and love and relationship needs, all of these, including the self-esteem and all, is fulfilled. But in a society, if there is exist equal physical comfort, equal physical education, safety, love and relationship, there would also be a need to seek self-esteem and further actualization, which is as part of the Maslow's theory. But a society can only be in balance when all the sexes are able to achieve all of these needs in equal manner. So, to empower oneself, we do not have to disempower others. We can exist, coexist with equal respect, validating each other's unique space in the family or in the community. So, I feel that an empowered woman is someone who's comfortable in her skin, doing what she believes in, being part of the family also, a community, the society in which she lives in. That for me is an empowered woman.
Absolutely true, Vanita. So true. And so true that just to empower ourselves, we do not need to disempower anyone else. Absolutely true. Anupriya, what about you? Who, according to you, is the empowered woman?
I think there is no final product that is empowerment, that empowerment should look like. It is a process. Every day, I think I'm discovering the power and the resilience within. I recognize in my clients that that power is growing, that power is evolving, and it's dynamic. It's not that empowerment looks like if you've achieved this threshold and that's it. You can't get more powerful than that. It's a process. And for me, to truly, truly, really start even talking about empowerment, you have to really start talking about empowering the body, because your body is your armor, is your protective gear. It's always taking care of you. It's all, its base instinct is to uh, help you meet the challenges, like you mentioned, El, right at the beginning. Life is a roller coaster. And like John Lennon said, life is everything that's happening to you when you're busy making other plans. So how do you find that core of power when life experiences are constantly like throwing you off balance, taking your power away? So when I look at it from the drama therapy lens, it is to offer the choice to your body, to the nexus of the mind and the body in any way it needs to be able to, take care of itself, whatever, like Vanita said, it has so many needs. And from the drama therapy lens, all of us are not just playing one role, right? I mean, like, we are not just Zoom attendees right now.
Yes.
Even as we are Zoom attendees, we play multiple roles. That is exactly what I mean by I'm an intersectional drama therapist, because I see the intersection of so many identities coming along to frame so many roles coming together to frame that sense of self. So when you have to truly empower the body and all the roles that the body is playing, it is, offering what brings back the freedom, the joys in your body to have that autonomy in the conversation,
Wow.
So,
Wow. This I am going to take up further with you, Anupriya. This nexus, as you call it, between the mind and the body. For me, it's an extremely new concept, and I'd love to know more about it. But for the present, we'll move to Sanaeya. Sanaeya, who, according to you, is the empowered woman?
I've been thinking about this a lot recently because especially a generation like ours, empowerment is sort of thrown around. I'm in media marketing and advertising. Empowerment is just part of the lingo. It's just everywhere. So to actually articulate it, for me, the empowered woman can be ambitious, strong, driven, positive, and yet at the same time, simultaneously be anxious, fearful, uncertain, insecure, unsure. So you could be ambitious and boss babe one moment, but be rocking yourself on the bathroom floor the very next, and still have enough in you to know that you will get back up, complete the rest of your day, whether it's work, whether it's housework, whether it's you just having to go out and have enough in you to meet friends, literally. So it's the woman that accepts these different facets of herself. She adapts with it rather than letting either herself beat her down, or society beat her down, or family or friends that may not entirely understand what is going on beat her down every single day. And she accepts, adapts, experiences it, and moves past it. So whether that means allowing herself to actually stay on that floor, rocking herself as long as she needs to, or whether it means simply feeling what you're feeling and working and powering through it with a deadline looming over you. And I truly believe that understanding and completely accepting all these little bits, which I'm not definitely a master in, I haven't. I still beat myself up. And then a friend of mine, literally, I think a year or so ago, said, you just do what your body is telling you to do. You know, so when Anupriya and Vanita spoke about that, I resonated with this so much because it's such a simple statement sent to me over WhatsApp, but it just blew my world open, right? So if you need to be in bed, or you need to be sad, or you need to cut off all emotion and just be out there getting it, right? Whatever it is that your body is telling you to do, just do it. And how dare you let the world stop you from that?
Wow.
So I feel like that is what the empowered woman for me is.
Wow. Wow. Thank you, Sanaeya. And we're going to come back to you a little bit and ask you to talk a little more about your challenges that led you to this discovery. But I'm going to go back to Anupriya because I'm truly intrigued, Anupriya. What is this mind-body nexus?
Okay, I'll just give a little context because there are only like 8 drama therapists in the country, and I don't know how many people, just by a show of hands, can I quickly see all those on video, have heard of drama therapy or met some kind of drama therapist? Yeah. Okay, great. We have a few people. So great. Chime in like at a point. Add it on the chats if you can add and explore this in a different way. But essentially what I do is you would meet me, a drama therapist, at the treatment end of a diagnosis. So typically what you would find like as a diagnosis of a person diagnosed with depression or a person diagnosed with anxiety would, at a treatment end, post the diagnosis, come to me to understand how do they now work with this, this thing that is robbing them from their sense of power, their sense of control. Because a lot of time, the people who enter the room are people who have the need to reclaim that lost sense of power in their conversation. That's my client I'm talking about. But when you come to think of it, and I had to start training to be a drama therapist and holding space through drama for these conversations that definitely do bring up things in me, right? Because I'm human. I'm not God. And my training doesn't include that I become absolutely bulletproof to emotions.
Yeah.
I'm not objective alone or dead, which a lot of people would say objective process is the dead process. Subjective process, the living process, is what's growing and is evolving. So I'm not just objective. I have that subjective process also in me, right? I have a reaction, I have an emotional connection. So what I wasn't prepared for was how much of drama therapy school was going to be self-therapy. I thought, I got this. I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I really want to truly go out there, provide a space that empowers potential and ability and capacity in people to actualize their needs, like Vanita said, to meet their challenges with the resilience, like Sanaeya has recognized in her process. And to, fill that in between dialogue that isn't happening between the self and the others. Whatever the others now may look like, the roles that you are playing or the roles that are externally being played to you.
Yeah.
And I remember in orientation, the first thing my professor said was, yeah, this job is not for the faint-hearted. Because imagine I'm sitting in a room and trying to hold space for someone else, and they're talking about a painful experience that they have experienced. I can't sit with my own body's discomfort. So then I'll end up making the session about, oh my God, you know what? You said that now. I can't tell you what happened in my life.
Yeah.
Okay. I can't make the session about me. I have to let the space remain about the client. So for that objective process, I needed to do something called self-care. And I didn't have any concept of this word. And I make a living out of it right now at Dr. Drama by offering access to this concept as much as I can. But what self-care essentially is the ability to check in with yourself and see what are the conversations that are making you uncomfortable, that are making you comfortable. That sit at your physical, mental, spiritual, emotional, whatever palpable level that you are feeling it emerge. But it's a way of checking in with yourself and seeing at a consistent level, letting the ritual evolve. Like you can today be doing art to reflect, tomorrow you could be doing movement to reflect, but allowing yourself to really reflect and find that safe space to connect what your experiences mean in your current actions. So I'm an advocate for self-care, but obviously the journey to being a trauma-informed, intersectional, feminist drama therapist came with acknowledging my own privilege and came with acknowledging the whole body of 2 years of trauma that I came with in school and said, I am absolutely sorted like that, but tell me how I can be a therapist. And then they slowly, like an onion, helped me. They held me while they peeled, and showed me that, look, this is what belongs to you. And this is what belongs to your client. And as soon as you start doing that, you can start empowering both conversations.
Wow. Wow, Anupriya. Super. I mean, that is amazing. And I'm going to borrow that self-care definition when someone asks me what is self-care. I'm definitely borrowing that from you. Farida, you mentioned every woman is empowered, but she just needs to be reminded.
Yeah.
A, why does she forget? And B, how can you and I remind her when society, maybe her own family, is constantly doing things to help her forget?
Okay. So I'll give you an example. I'll give an example over here. It is about, there was this domestic help of mine who used to come to work in my home daily. Okay. And she knew that I used to do something. She used to see me taking sessions. She didn't know, she had absolutely no idea what I do. And one day she just comes to me and she just sits like this and she says, Didi, jhad poch kar lo. So she the impression I do some jhad poch. So I said, jhad poch? So she said, हाँ दीदी बहुत सर दुख रहा है मेरा ऐसा फट रहा है सर. So I said, okay. I said, 1 घंटा है? So she's saying, हाँ दीदी है. I got her to sleep. I began doing some energy healing on her. After an hour, she was snoring away. And when she woke up, I told her, Didi, Saraswati Didi, her name was. I said, Didi, ho gaya. So she wakes up, halka lag raha hai, Didi. Kya kiya? Kya tha? Kya tha? So she thought that there was something sitting over her head and I dug out it with my jhadu.
Yeah.
So when I'm saying what she needs to be reminded of is that there is this innate ability. Maybe she just needed that 1 hour of rest and relaxation, which that energy work gave her. That woman, she starts the morning at 5, ends at like 12 in the night. So, and this I'm talking about a lady who doesn't have absolutely any clue of what's happening. Nothing of these modalities, the language that we talk, no clue. So when I'm saying reminded, why she needs to be reminded, maybe that was a remembrance for her that sometimes just need to just relax. She had absolutely no clue. So that's the power. The power within each one of us to just sit back sometimes and not do anything. Just let go of it, you know. Just let go of it. She didn't reach an hour. She must have reached an hour late to another home. But she let go of that control that she was handing. She was just holding on to that, you know, ghar, ghar, dusra ghar, tisra. So this is just a domestic help example.
Yeah.
Has no, what you call, no idea of what she is talking about or what she is, but she knows what she's feeling. Her body knew it.
Yeah.
And talking about why she needs to be reminded, taking my own example, I never had any clue what's happening in my life. I was just a machine which was walking. That's it. Just chore to chore to chore to chore. So if my second name had become chore to chore, finishing one, doing something, finishing one, doing something. 25 years of corporate, I ran like a machine. I needed to remember that there is this woman inside taking what Anupriya said, you know, the body. My body was actually crying, literally crying. I need to remember that I have a body. I was working on the mind engine, will. It was just will that was keeping me going hell, nothing else.
Yeah.
There was no connection. There was no connection with the body. There was no connection with the heart. What I'm feeling. No, I wanted to just shut it off. What I'm feeling, because I had to, hey, run that kitchen.
Yeah. So all of you are kind of talking really about listening to your body. So Sanaeya, before you actually learned to respect your body, respect the needs of your body, in the years when the emotions were overwhelming you, right? How did you cope at that time? And what exactly were these emotions? And did you go into blame? Did you go into self-resentment? What was your emotional process before you reached this awareness that the body has to be respected and honored?
So till about whenever college is, right? So whatever that year is, literally. Everything before then, I felt everything I'm still feeling, probably and maybe more deeply, because when you're younger, if you feel one thing, your whole world is that one little thing.
Yeah.
Right? At this stage as adults, you can sort of separate it. But at that time, literally all the way till I was about 18, it was easier for me to block it out. It is a defense mechanism. It's a coping method. It's not healthy. I am aware of it. It got me through a lot.
Yes.
It was my comfort zone. It was where I felt all right. So whether it was the emotions being shut off or not letting people in, I did all of it. I didn't see a need to let anyone in. I didn't feel safe, comfortable at all. Right? And it's not like I was surrounded by people that didn't really get me. I had lovely friends growing up in school. I had the best and most supportive family. Like there's zero judgment across the board. It's not just, you, dad, etc. It's just across the board through our family. There's no judgment ever. But I never felt a reason or comfortable. What hit when I switched and went into college was I met a group of people that made me feel safe. So after that, once I was ready to speak to people, I could speak to my group of friends. I could speak to my dad, for instance. Like, we are very, very similar. So for me to get advice from someone who's literally gone through a lot like I have, and he thinks like me, we are very similar. So I felt comfortable enough to open up. And when you open up even a little bit, just having the support and strength of people around you sort of changed what I was feeling. So I could feel the intense anxiety or be in a really low bout of depression where I maybe won't speak to anyone for days. But even if I have like a couple of them will just message with a heart and I'm fine, right? I don't need to engage. I don't want to engage. But it's the support. I feel like the support makes a huge difference. And I know that now because I lived years without feeling that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I cherish it. I feel like for anyone else, just the support. Even if you don't know what to say, what to do, just be there. That's all they need.
I actually love that sometimes we really don't know what to say. And I loved what Sanaeya said, just receiving a message with a heart is just enough. In fact, you don't need the words. You just need to let your loved one, your friend, your whoever you are helping, just know I care. And that's so important. And Vanita, you spoke that it's so important to make people aware of their potential. How exactly do you do that? How do you help them touch their potential?
And first of all, I think we need to find that whatever they are feeling right now, whatever anyone is going through, if you validate what they are going through, like how Sanaeya spoke or Farida spoke, once they are validated, then the potential in them shines through in any way. It is very important to first say, okay, what you are, I see you. I see you for who you are. I see what your values are, what you stand for. And then the potential will emerge any which way. Because human being, as you know very well, more than me, that is very unique. Every human being is unique. Every human being has got their potential. And unique gifts to give to everyone. It could be just a small pottery somebody is doing, or someone who is running an organization. So everyone has got this. But how do we bring this out? I feel is by making them feel that, yes, we understand you, we see you, and we feel for you. I think that brings out the potential. That brings out, everything powerful within themselves. And unfortunately, our education system and the society in which we live in does not give that. It negates the person first, and then
Yes.
you follow this rule, you follow this dogma or this principle, and then you're okay. If you don't do that,
yes,
you're okay. And that's why we see a lot of people, a lot of youngsters coming up with anxiety and depression because they are not expressing themselves. They are not able to express themselves, even though we have changed a lot from our generation to this one. But we still see that the expression is limited, and we are still following some archaic principles of patriarchy, maybe, of the way the things should be, and we are not able to be ourselves. Once we are ourselves, I feel the human potential can just shine through.
So true, Vanita. So I completely agree with you. It's the whole I see you. That's
I see you.
so important. I see you. You know, people go through lives when they feel I am just not seen by anyone. I don't mean anything to anyone, right? No one's listening, no one's hearing, and it's like I'm a fly on the wall. So that's I see you is so important, I think, in helping anyone. And also just allowing them to be who they are. I think that is so important as parents, as teachers, as society in general, just allowing people to be who they are instead of imposing our ideas and our ideologies onto people. And that's so important. And this is something that I face on a regular basis with my counseling, especially when child and parent come together for counseling. Sometimes I have to make the mother, father just say, keep quiet and please listen to what your child is saying, because the child is talking to me, but the parent is not even, no, El, this is just a phase. El, this is why we have brought him to you. This is how you can help her. Please tell her this is wrong. So they are trying to make me tell the child to believe in the parents' dogma, and they get extremely uncomfortable when I refuse to do that. But in fact, I turn the tables and I say, you listen to your child. So that is so important. So Vanita, what made you go into suicide prevention? Because isn't this, it can get emotionally taxing for you as well. So why did you go into it, and what spurred you in this direction, and how have these 9 years empowered you?
Yeah, thanks. Actually, it was by sheer chance that I came across this work. A dear friend of mine, who is also in this webinar, by the way, Meena Gupta, she introduced me to this concept. And the more I saw how the emotional support and the distress helpline works, the kind of people who are there, and the kind of support it is actually providing, it started making me more committed to it. So there was always an inner urge to do something for others. And I was part of a Rotary, so we used to do community service. That was familiar to me. But within a kind of deep within, I was always an introvert. And I always felt that how could all such people who are unable to reach out to anyone, who feel shame, who feel guilt, who are unable to share their feelings, who are there? Who is there for such people? Who is there for people who have no one to talk? Because, El, the statistics are very, very daunting. I'll just share some statistics with you. Globally, over 8 lakh people die by suicide.
Wow.
Every year, yes. And it represents 1 in every 40 seconds, someone is dying somewhere.
My gosh.
Yes. And in India, every 5 minutes, someone attempts suicide. And it is a third major cause of death. Younger people, especially in India, feel more suicidal. And it's the leading cause of death in 14 to 29-year-old. And these are statistics that I'm talking about. So the way the suicide prevention helpline works is, especially the Befriender India centers, which is what we are affiliated to, they are very clear principles and practices of working. The self-determination and validation of feelings, which I have now imbibed so deeply within myself, and the thoughts is so unique that if these were actually applied to our society across the board, we would be living in utopia. And but the point is that the space is there. The space is possible. And more I saw what was possible, I started believing in myself actually. An ordinary person is supporting another ordinary person who is deeply in distress, and something extraordinary happens there, happens in that space. Some things come up in that unconditional space, and a healing happens, a solution happens. So this self-belief which came from this made me validate my own feelings also. That, and to be with others in this unconditional manner, I realized that you don't have to be perfect to help another. You can be grappling with your own issues, but when you are there for the other person, you're there in an unconditional manner, and that is enough.
Wow.
Yeah, so you just have to be non-judgmental. The more I could do it for others, the more I could do it for myself. I could accept myself for who I am and what I believe in. That is basically been my journey with the suicide prevention helpline, and how it has connected me to so many wonderful people, so many amazing individuals, a work ethic which has really brought out the best in me, I would say, and made me feel more grounded.
That's so amazing, Vanita. And I loved that. I mean, I just absolutely loved it. The less you judge others, the less you judge yourself. And
Yes,
that
yes.
is so, so true. Sometimes in my spiritual counseling, when I'm talking to someone, an inner voice will kind of tell me, "L, listen to what you are saying. This is what you need to say to yourself." And that is so true. The more we help others, the more we actually help ourselves. And Farida, I want to bring you in here. Vanita said something which was so true, that when people are going through their deep emotions and their deep pain, who is there for them? And I know your life story, you shared a little with me. um, who was there for you? And B, if you are comfortable to share your amazing life story with people and to explain to them how you not only came out of it, but how you came out of it this amazingly strong woman that you are today.
Sure. Um, as I was listening to each one, and what's ringing constantly in my ears is be kind to your kind.
Mm, mm,
And as I'm saying this, forgive me, my dear participants, if I get emotional a little, because it was the women who took me to the space of the female genital mutilation that happened at the age of 7. It was they were my aunts. They were women. So, you know, be kind to your kind. And when I am able to be, first of all, being kind to myself was very difficult for me.
mm.
It, nobody was kind to me. A 7-year-old, what happened to her? And you all may want to Google female genital mutilation. There's a whole lot of stuff out there, what happens in the name of religion. And when this happened to this 7-year-old Farida, of course, I mean, it stayed in the body, right? The, 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 the horrific incident stayed in the body. It got locked there. And as I'm talking, over 200 million girls across the world go through this horror. It's a taboo. All over the world, I'm talking about. So, in the name of social norm, and the women are upholding this norm in their families. How did I find my strength? I did not find it at all. It was bits and pieces that I was living my life in, because by the time a situation used to hit me, it used to immediately go into the firefighting mode. Like, okay, now I have to handle it. So my coping was, most of the times I remember right from childhood up until the time I realized what am I up to, my coping was just cleaning. I either used to clean closets, home, my own home. So even if it was clean, I used to just clean it. And there was a time at the age of 41, and my mother never discussed this to me. My mother's a Christian. My dad's a Bori Muslim. Boris do this. This ritual is practiced in the Bori community. And my mother never discussed this with me. And I started feeling that why am I feeling whatever I'm feeling? So I suffered from depression, anxiety, post traumatic, the you name it, right from thyroid to whatever. And today where I'm standing, I've reversed all of that for me, even thyroid.
Wow.
How did I do it? Was because I realized at the age of 41, I needed to speak about my story. Because unless I don't talk about my story, this will just be hidden in me, and nobody else will be able to relate to their own stories. And whatever it could be, as small as you are not going to wear that pair of jeans today, or you are not going to go out of that house at this time of the night today, or whatever it is. So I chose to speak, and I wrote about my story, and it was picked up by Femina uh, in the year 2012. So it was like a mass awakening of sorts,
Mm.
literally. And I cannot tell you how terrified I was. I was so fearful, because now what? It's out there. They are going to come after me. So it was all the fears, you know, and I remember it was so fearful for me. But one thing I held on to, one thing, that it was the strength of my truth of who I am. That strength I held on to for life, literally for life. And that faith that, okay, no, it's okay. I have support. So support started coming in through friends, through my sister, through, you know, through people who I don't even know. I've never met.
Hmm.
So I never met them, but people started reading my story and sending me messages. And I started, and this is just one aspect of it. But how do I find strength is by talking about it.
Hmm.
That's how, and I always did that. Whether it was, I used to travel by train for hours to work, okay? And we used to just sit in the train, women, you know, and it used to be from Virar to Churchgate, I remember. And we used to just talk, just share. So everybody used to bring in their stories and it was like a buffet and just share. So solution was the talking.
Yes.
So I caught that. I said, yes, it's the voice. And a woman, her voice is so important. That voice that is deep in her belly, actually. That shriek that needs to come out.
Yeah.
She needs to talk. She needs to say, she needs to share. That's how I found my strength. I started writing. And I wrote. First, I filled my diaries first. I filled my diaries. That was that was hidden in my closets. Nobody could see it. And then I started coming out of my own closet. My own closet. Now, then I started realizing, okay, that's why I go to my closet, because I need to come out of my closet, right? That's how I started finding my strength in talking, in just writing, talking, sharing. And I used to be very smart in sharing. I used to not share fully. I used to be afraid. Kitna bolu, kitna nahi bolu.
Hmm.
You know, just to check how am I being received. And then I said, nahi Farida, this is manipulation. You just share. Just share. However you are received. So I used to share them. Today I talk about taboo subjects. I talk about sex. I talk about so many subjects. I talk about menopause. Women, they are not willing to, even men are not willing to talk about that word at all. They are not willing to talk about their bodies. That's how I found my strength. And I know this strength is there in each one of us. This voice is there.
Thank you, Farida. This voice is there. And my God, this was so powerful. And you know, this is exactly, Farida, what I tell my clients. Talk. There is nothing that you have done. There is nothing that you have gone through which needs to be hidden because of your shame, because of guilt. And you know, till as long as there is shame and guilt, we cannot find our voice. And I know that because I'm talking from experience. You know, as a child, as a young adult, I would convert my inner pain to anger, to aggression. And every time I was aggressive and I would see the hurt on my mom's face, on my dad's face, on my sister's face, there would be this deep shame and guilt in me. And that shame and guilt only made my wounds even deeper. Till I learned to speak about my pain, till I learned to share my pain, and that was my freedom. And Sanaeya, that's where I want you to come in. Have you found that you have been able to face your challenges more powerfully by sharing your story with your friends, with others who are going through the same anxiety and depression? Because it's amazing how many people, especially young adults, are going through anxiety and depression. And almost all of them, when they come to me, it's like, Elle, please keep this in confidence. We don't want anyone to know. And there is a shame and a guilt about this anxiety and depression. So Sanaeya, first, did you find your power in the sharing? And while you were going through all of this, I am constantly amazed, and that's why I'm asking you this question in public today. how did you find the strength to start your company, to do Harvard, to head a very large company today with so many big clients? How do you do it?
No answer to that. So I'll just go to the first part of your question first. For me, there was no guilt or shame in anything that I was going through. It was pure confusion. So for the person that I am, I need to understand what is happening, right? I'm not vague or open-ended or spiritual or anything like that. I need it to make sense. So anxiety or depression, even more anxiety, you can still think, like, you can fool yourself into thinking that, you know, you're just hyper, so it's anxiety. But things like depression, etc., when it doesn't make sense, and that is what the issue was for me. So there was never shame attached to it. It was just anger in context for the confusion happening. I personally did not share. That is not my journey. So if you're asking me if I drew strength or inspiration from sharing my story with multiple people, it's never what I have. It's the first time I have ever even spoken about it, like, in public, rather than, I mean, other than one time when I posted an article on Facebook. That's it. For me, it was very personal. For me, if I need to ever help friends that I have, I need them to come to me, because it is not my space to go up to them, because that was my journey. I needed to be open enough to then trust the beautiful, supportive friend circle I had around me. And even that, we never really discussed it with labels of anxiety or depression or self-harm or anything. There were never labels like this. There was never shame or guilt attached to it, because it just wasn't part of my journey. So how I actually did it was, I needed desperately for it to start making sense. And it started when panic attacks became a daily recurrence, rather than me having to deal with it once every other week and getting over it. So when that started happening, I wanted to understand more. What I tell everyone, that literally, like, friends and family that come to me and talk about this, is what first opened my eyes to everything was a Facebook group called The Mighty. It is phenomenal. It has lakhs and lakhs of people. And the entire group is only and solely dedicated as a supportive community for mental health. So I watched multiple videos where it's just little snippets, as in written snippets of I am feeling, and just one after another. And I connected. You realize mental health is so different and so subjective for each one of us. I still, even though I'm going through exactly what all of them are going through, I still connected to about 50% of it. And that made all the difference. Suddenly there were words attached to these insane, strange feelings that I felt. Right? So if I had to be a certain way, I could do that with my friends and be sad or be in a corner or something like that. But how do you make sense of it? So Facebook made me do that. I went through a ton of online chat rooms and started reading. And then there, I realized that even though it was at my height of panic attacks, I was going through nothing compared to what people on those chat rooms were going through. It was literally, I was in office going through these chat rooms, and it was terrifying stories. And you realize that I understand that I'm going through a lot of shit, but I've got it far easier than it could be. Or if I don't pick up the phone and maybe call the therapist I've been thinking about and contemplating about for the last 3 months, and I don't do it now, that could be me. So there were people who had just gotten off their medication and hadn't left the house in years. There were people who'd leave the house and they'd have a panic attack instantly. So they were literally in the house for years and years. It was just story and story that were horrifying. And it was literally on that day that I called the therapist and I started going. For me, the entire process has been very structured and systematic. So I needed her to make sense of what my mind was going through. I needed her to put words to these strange thoughts. After that, I literally used her as a workbook. I was like, when I have panic attack, For me, in my business, if I have a panic attack before a meeting, I cannot tell them I'll just be right back. It doesn't work, right? I go to these meetings as a girl, youngest in the whole room. You can't just walk away. So I'd gone to her specifically only to help me work without my emotions getting intertwined with work. I couldn't have that. So she gave me techniques and methods to cope. Some didn't work at all. Whereas others, literally to this day, I use, they work perfectly. And it's become more a part of my life. So even now, when I may not get panic attacks daily, when it doesn't freak me out. Earlier, it was the anticipation of the maybe panic attack that may happen in the near future, but you never know what's going to happen. You don't know how to deal with it, right? So it's all that anticipation that makes you anxious about anxiety. So it's this constant cycle you're sort of stuck in. And I'm a coffee addict, so that doesn't help the process at all, right? So for me, it was specific coping methods that helped. It helps with work. It helps me stay focused. It helps me get through each day, literally, happily.
And how did you find the strength, Sanaeya? I mean, did it never occur to you that, oh, I'm going through this and I'm still going to start my own company? Was there ever any doubt, or there was no doubt? And what would you tell people who have this doubt that I can't do it?
I would say don't until you're completely ready. You know, we'll all have jobs. If you have to stick on to the job for the next 3 months while you're maybe sorting yourself out, it's easier personally to do that while you have maybe an income coming in every month. While you can maybe say that, you know, I can't write today, so I'll give it to someone else. While you have a team, you have an organization that can pull the slack back, right? When you are on your own, it's all you. So if you crumble or you aren't certain, business breaks. So be sure of yourself. Even if it's 20%, you know you have that to hold on to. But if you're completely uncertain and then you go start on your own, I find that a little bit problematic.
Thank you, Sanaeya. Thank you. And Anupriya, you know, this is from Sanaeya's story. We can see how Sanaeya needs a structure in which to work. Now, that's who she is. But do you think all clients and all women, men, youngsters who come to you all need this understanding? Do they need the structure? And how does Dr. Drama provide it? And how did you go through your own personal journey of challenges that brought you to Dr. Drama?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to mention that I'm hearing so many things from all of you, Anita, Farida, Sanaeya, that I'm going to try and talk about as well in this process. Like, for example, when Sanaeya spoke about label. Now, typically, when you meet a diagnosis, it's always deficit centered. It's always like, oh, this person cannot do this. For example, if you say this person is on the autism spectrum and has repetitive behavior, you're automatically thinking, are uska repetitive behavior. We keep doing this.
Yeah.
Okay, right? Now, a drama therapist or an expressive arts therapist is able to recognize that there is expression even in this, and there is a potential to channel that repetition also. So it's a strength-based approach. It comes not from what you can't do. What are you already doing and what can you do? I know of 3 boys who used to have this tick of behavior, and now they are percussionists. Because guess what needs repetition in behavior?
Yeah.
All right? Let me also paint a clinical picture of someone who's experienced trauma, which Farida was also mentioning so beautifully in her experience of articulating. And I hope people who are hearing that can hear the universality of what someone experiencing trauma feels like. First off, the first expectation of someone who is experiencing trauma is to release. Say it out. Say, what is it? What's bothering you? Bolo, bolo, bolo. When you experience trauma, the first place that gets incapacitated is your speech center. Which is why in therapy they say that the last place a conversation of empowerment or confidence comes to is the voice.
Yeah.
Last, you will realize, you might realize it, know it, it's sitting in your body, but you will only express it only when you've gone through that process of acknowledging it in your base. Um, I think a lot of therapy is about normalizing that experience, that what you are going through is not your, is universal and unique at the same time, like a lot of people mention. For example, when you experience trauma, there is a fragmentation of self, which is called disassociation, which is basically, I suddenly, you heard the news that, and I'm talking from my personal experience. I'm going to call this character Uma, because I think right now all I can think of empowerment is Uma Thurman in Kill Bill right now. So I'm going to metaphorically call this character Uma and share my story and my journey of trauma through Uma. Okay. So Uma was a badass girl, and she learned all these beautiful tricks and tools to understand the mind and body. And then, just as she graduated from her college, her worst fears came true. Someone who she loved very, very, very dearly, who had been coping with a long-term illness, passed away. It was Uma's mother. Right at the beginning of her journey to be a mental health care provider, Uma was like, I can't do this. I can't hold people. I can't. I have too much trauma of my own to even think of what trauma could mean to anybody else. But what Uma slowly found in the process of her journey is that, yes, when events like this happen, like Uma has complex post-traumatic stress disorder. And when I say complex, I mean there's not just one thing making her a traumatic, someone who experiences traumatic stressors, but she has multiple reasons to be upset and holding a lot of pain and fragmentation. What she noticed was after these repeated episodes of trauma, her body had lost context. Her body and mind were not connected. But so funny, na? We're still in the same body. Even if our mind is somewhere else and our body is somewhere else, and we use our body as an object as much as we want, don't bring it in as the subject of the conversation. The body will catch up, because in the body of a trauma-informed person, the body also has a memory of its own. This is why a lot of child psychologists will say we have to attend to trauma as soon as it's experienced in the body of the child, because it is so intrinsically involved in their development. They grow up, they hold patterns of experiencing, living, understanding life based on information that they form frameworks to as a child. And similarly with trauma, again, it goes back to, and when something traumatic happens now, it takes away the power from your body, from your own personal ability to say, if someone is dead, no matter what you do, you can't bring that person back to life. And that reminder that trauma has, that it's in the past, that you can't do anything to change it. So where do we work from that? We work from where you are right now. And we work from your strengths, not from what you can't do, but what you can do. For example, I can shoot 20,000 creative ways to manage your time better. Okay? But you know what's the one that's going to stick for you? The one that you arrive at. The one that you recognize is what you need. You know, sometimes friends are like, "Arey, tu therapist ke paas gayi aur usne bola tum ye karo, and now you're doing it." I have been telling you this all my life. You don't listen to me. Mothers and fathers will be like, I tell you this to every day. Why do you not listen to me? That's because it doesn't matter what you are sharing. Is the body ready to receive that information? Is that person ready to go to that space of understanding, of experiencing? And a lot of trauma work is not about going back to the point of trauma that took your power away, but recognizing that you have survived till now. So clearly, you have a bone of resilience in you. What is that bone? And how do we work with it? If this is your deficit, how do you start playing a tabla with it or playing an instrument with it?
That's
So
fabulous. That's
yeah.
truly fabulous, Anupriya. I mean,
And
I
one thing, sorry, I just want to add is the fact that all of you have mentioned this, the role of empathy unconsciously in everything you talk. And it's a huge part and parcel of the process to truly empower not only self, but each other. Because there was a question in the comments I couldn't help but read, that how do you empower self and community? And just to jump on and say that, we live in the intersection of all kinds of isms: sizeism, racism, ageism, sexism, classism, casteism. What is an ism? An ism is one identity or aspect of identity being oppressed by another aspect. And there is this imbalance of power and authority. There's one powerful person who is the oppressor, and there's one who's oppressed. Even in therapy, it is understanding which part of you is oppressing that expression and allowing it to express. And that expression doesn't have to look one way. That you could think that music is your choice of expression. Someone could be just doing this, and this is also expression because it is movement.
yeah.
Right? So drama therapy or any kind of expressive arts therapy is really working with the vocabulary of language that the client is coming with and understanding where their expression is rooting from, instead of offering, hey, mere ko ye pata hai, ye, chalo play banate, chalo let's write a letter. It's not suggestive, it's not to solve you, it is to help you facilitate a dialogue on what your healing process requires.
Amazing, Anupriya. That it's just fab. It's just fab. And I genuinely believe that this is the future of therapy, instead of sitting for hours with that client and asking questions like, so you tell me what you think of it. I mean,
I
hello.
mean, I put a puppet in the moment, like I spoke about Uma. Did you see your mind immediately traveled and it thought
Yeah.
of another person? It's about building that
Yes.
sympathy through storytelling.
Yeah.
There's something you all spoke about. Sanaeya spoke about balance in thought and emotion. And in drama therapy, it's called aesthetic distance, which is finding that balance of thought and emotion, not being too over distanced, which is zoomed out from your from your core emotion and too only cerebral about it, or not being too under distanced, too zoomed into what your emotion is, but not being able to pull out and see the thought process behind it. So therapy is essentially recalibrating that aesthetic balance and finding your aesthetic presence, whatever that expression looks like.
Super. Thank you, Anupriya. Thank you. Farida, I'd like to bring you in again. In your promo video, Farida, which I absolutely loved, which we put up on Facebook, you end with this powerful statement, and you look straight into the camera and you say, own your orgasms. Wow. I want you to talk about that. Yes, sex is something that men and women should now talk about without this ooh and ah and whatever. I mean, it's part of who we are. It's our life. None of us would have been here. I mean, I don't think any of us had Mother Mary or Joseph as our parents. So, let's talk about it openly. And I'd love you to tell me and tell all our viewers, own your orgasms.
Yeah. So, I'll begin with own your orgasms. Okay. Like the word, like the moment it's like tack, 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 something is happening with that word itself. Orgasm actually is the fullness of who I am. Sex is the action part of it, right? Orgasm is such a beautiful word, and why did I use it? So if whoever must have seen that video of mine, I don't know how many of you all have seen it, the promo video. I start with the struggle. The struggle is real, and actually it's real. So if I were to take my body, what happened with me with the FGM was that a part of me was cut, okay, in the genital. Now, whatever I heard and studied and found out about it, that why would they go for that? I got to know that it's also to decrease the woman's libido.
I see.
So that she doesn't feel, the sex, the arousal. She's like a, if I were to use this word, Sati Savitri, okay, not feel her body at all. And I can't even begin to tell you the trauma I went through the first time ever I had an intercourse. The trauma. My body shrank.
Mm.
It was terrible, horrible, because I didn't know what was happening, the pain and everything, because there was no communication. Na? Nobody told me what had happened to me. I had to discover that something has happened to me at that age. So own your orgasms is, they forgot, actually. They all forgot. Whoever got this ritual in the system, they forgot that a woman's body, her entire body is a sexual being. Her entire body is orgasmic.
Mm.
Just doesn't, it's not just one act that determines her orgasm. It's who she is from head to toe. In the voice, in her look, in her words, in her embrace, a woman is orgasmic. In her walk, in her story, she's orgasmic. So owning my whole self had become important for me. And that's when I started working on this part, where I used to feel ashamed talking about it to my partner.
Mm.
I cannot, because I just need to be present. To a time where I started talking about it and I saw that the partner was feeling uncomfortable. So I said, okay, this is interesting. Let me see what more can I poke into, because that's what I do. I deep dive. That's how I am. That circumstances have made me that way, that I dive deep. If there is an issue, I'll dive deeper. So I went deeper into me. Let me check now. Orgasm is about power.
Mm.
It's about power, if you think about it, L. That I have the power in me to feel this completely, with or without.
Mm.
My inner masculine, inner feminine, right? First. The moment I talk about it with the other, that means I am comfortable in my own body.
Yeah.
If I am comfortable with my body, automatically I will find the same comfort coming in from people, right? When I talk about these subjects today also, I see a lot of women telling me, oh my God, really? You're talking about this? I said, yeah, I am talking about this.
Mm.
Now, if I were to say again, OYO, I call it OYO, the joy of owning
Your
own
orgasm.
self. Yeah.
Yeah.
Own your
Yeah.
orgasm.
Vanita, this is so, I mean, through her emotional distress, Farida has found her strength. But I'm sure as a suicide prevention helpline warrior that you are, that you have been for so many years, and also all the alternative healing that you do, so many come to you with emotional distress, which they are unable to face because they are ashamed of it, or they just don't know how to face that emotional distress, or they are conditioned to believe that this is how life is. And this is life, and you've got to live with emotional distress, and you've got to live with pain and suffering. Vanita, how do you help? How do you counsel? What are the solutions that you facilitate them to kind of find for themselves?
Yes, Elle. As you say, I have volunteered in helplines in Delhi and Mumbai, and now I have co-founded Suicide Prevention Helpline. It's called Mitram Foundation in Bangalore, and my founder is Dr. Nitish Dave. And yes, we need male and female together to make, bring out anything. So we are there for people who are going through a crisis in their lives, and the way they do is we do is by offering emotional support. So just by being there unconditionally, in a very confidential, safe, non-judgmental manner, we support and empower people to find their own solutions. Now, when you talk about the shame of emotional distress, as you say, it is with all of us. And even when I was volunteering, actually, in these suicide prevention centers, my own son went through a phase of depression. I was completely blindsided by it. I did not expect it. And I could be doing nothing. I could do nothing for it. I did what an anxious mother would do. I just felt helpless.
Mm.
But because thankfully these options were there, I knew there was an option. I took it. I reached out for help, supported my son. We took some very hard decisions along with my extremely supportive husband. And it is very strange that we always expect ourselves and others to be happy all the time.
Mm.
Yeah, and it is not without reason that in performing arts, like how Anupriya was mentioning, and we have this concept of navrasa, in the sense that there are different kind of emotions in ourselves, in our bodies. Our ancients knew that humans are capable of so many emotions, and not just one. Like, if we would just be happy all the time, I'm sure we would all feel very mechanical.
Yes.
So, the messaging in our society has to be towards a wholesome well-being, not just physical. Of course, physical is important, but also mental well-being. So, just as we exercise, eat healthy to keep our bodies healthy, we also need to look at our mental health. And we never look at it. We only look at it when we are depressed or falling into anxiety, or maybe we are stressed beyond our control. So research has shown, in fact, research has been carried out by Australia, University of Sydney, and various European universities. Also, they have shown that yoga and pranayam and deep breathing techniques and meditation, if they are practiced regularly, they help us to be in that wellness space. And when that wellness space comes naturally to us, we can go back to it. Or we feel the symptoms of emotional distress. Like, we can recognize the symptoms. It could be shallow breathing, it could be palpitations, it could be, butterflies or cramps in our stomach, or, insomnia, repetitive thoughts. So what we do is, by witnessing those emotions and allowing us to feel that emotional distress, we are validating it. So it's important to witness and feel it. It is important to do so and not brush it under the carpet and say, oh, I'm feeling stressed, so it's okay, let me do the next thing which I can do.
Yes.
So it's very important to talk it out. Even I resonate with what Anupriya said, that the throat is the last point of bringing out your trauma. But if you can talk it out. You may feel that you're making a mountain out of a molehill. Doesn't matter. We need to turn to someone who is trusted in our family, or friends, or counselors, psychologists, whoever it is. It is important to talk up. Call an emotional support helpline if you want, because everything is kept confidential there. Even if two members of the same family are talking to the same helpline, they won't that one is talking, the other one is also reaching out. And something very interesting is, we are unable to witness this emotional distress in our near and dear ones. We somehow turn our face away, and we feel incapable of coming face to face with this. Facing these extreme emotions in another, because we do not understand the underlying highly distressing feelings. But the whole thing is, we don't have to understand. And that's what I have come to learn from my experiences. We don't have to understand everything. We just have to be there. Hold the space, keep listening without judging or jumping to conclusions. And the person unburdens themselves in that safe space. They are able to gain a new perspective. Their feelings are validated. They feel understood. And that's how anyone can handle emotional distress, either in themselves or in others.
You know, Vanita, I so resonate with everything that you have just spoken. I remember Sanaeya once telling me, she says, Mom, every time I come to you, I'm not asking you to give me a solution. I'm just asking you to be there, listen, and to allow me to vent. And for me, that was such a huge, oh my God. You know, we tend to go into this make everything right mode.
Right, absolutely.
You know, especially if it is our loved ones. And you know, when you are a spiritual counselor, spiritual mentor, and people are looking at you for that, you tend to do exactly that with your family. And for me, it was such a huge statement that all Sanaeya needs in these times is for you, like you said, just be there. You don't have to try and understand. For me, it was, why I need to understand what Sanaeya is going through. I want to ask her questions. And she used to say, no, don't speak. Don't speak. And you know, that was such a huge one for me. And you said exactly the same thing. And Sanaeya, I want to bring you in here. You know, I have made so many mistakes along the way, and you have educated me about anxiety and depression and about what you've been going through and what I should do in order to help you. But you know, not everyone is blessed to have someone who's going through that anxiety and depression, and who actually is able to tell the family, this is what I need from you, do this for me. So I want you to kind of address that so people would know, how do we help our loved ones when they're going through that? Because now I've realized that talking incessantly is not the answer. And two, there are so many who still are so scared of going to a therapist because they feel, oh my God, people will think I'm mad, right? I want you to address both of these very, very important issues.
So I recently had a friend who is still, so we chatted through the anxiety portion of the conversation, but when it came to her having to speak to anyone else about it, it's easy to talk to me about it because I've gone through it. People know I'm going through it. So, you know, you're going to have someone who gets you, right? But still, when I was like, do you want to talk to your parents about it? Because it sounds like she comes from a conservative family, but speak to people. It was an issue. Therapist was maybe an issue. So there's such a fear of not just being accepted for feeling a certain way. You know, so when you are asking me a question like this, what I would say is, all the person when they are feeling like this, right? If they are in a space of anxiety or uncertainty, or it can just be plain fear, right? That they can't really, it's like crippling fear, or even just as simple as a low day, all they need is for you to be there. Now, the talking aspect is just personally for me, right? It's not been my journey. I don't emote. It's not who I am. So when I need comfort, it is not multiple, it's not the speaking. It gets to me worse, I knock off, and I don't need to be a part of it. It's not me. However, from what I realized through these years, and when you're reading about other accounts and you're hearing friend stories, etc., each one's experience with these issues is completely different. But at the crux of everything, anxiety stems from uncertainty, it stems from insecurity, it stems from fear. The fear or the uncertainty can be as vague or as deep and intense across the spectrum. Like for me, for instance, sometimes my panic attacks would be stirred on just because there was a change in my schedule. That's it, right? So when you are living with people like this, and you have friends that are feeling, or that you may think are feeling like this, what I would still wholeheartedly just suggest is be there. Silent support, or just sending a hug, or sending a strange array of emojis, or whatever it is that works for you, right? It could be sending your friend a waffle. I don't know. Whatever it is that works for you
Mm.
or that works for that person. It has nothing to do with you, actually. That works for that person in that moment. So I do not like people talking at me when I am in the grips of maybe an anxiety episode. So I told you that.
Mm.
Now, actually being able to articulate it and saying what you expect to someone else may not be easy, right? Because as soon as you tell people that, it could also backfire and have a whole bunch of questions that come after it, right? So I could just tell you that I'm seeking a therapist.
Mm.
Okay. And I'd be like, okay, I feel comfortable and I hope you as my friend's family accept it. And I'm just telling you because I want you to be a part of this journey with me.
Mm.
Okay. But if I don't say, I would like you, all I want from this conversation is to be heard.
Yeah.
I don't want anything else, which I've done multiple times now because I've realized, right? But it's not easy to put yourself out there. So when people are speaking to you and they're coming from a space that even has the minutest vulnerability, pick up on it and then back off. Support is all the person needs. Let's say they just need to feel accepted and supported, because at the end of the day, why the hell not? Right? If I'm going to see a therapist or if I'm going for a music class, what is the difference?
Mm.
Right? That's all they need. Why are people feeling the guilt and shame? Guilt and shame stems from a place of, I am not going to be intensely judged
Mm.
by myself, by others, which is why I am judging myself, which is why I'm feeling guilty, which is why I will feel ashamed. So I'll just call this one friend, versus maybe speaking to a stronger support system that's in my house even.
Mm.
Right? So many people won't even speak to their partners or their brother, sister, friend, parents that are living with them. That's happening only because they're so scared of being judged. Acceptance and support is at the core of all of this. And I feel that that's so important. And I personally have grown because I found a supportive group of friends that allowed me to be just who I was without making it sound like a big deal. It was just how we were.
So true, Sanaeya. That support is the most important thing, and this complete, um, this stigma that in our country is still attached to mental health and seeking help for mental health is just. I really feel as a society we need a lot of education in that. And Anupriya, I think you're the best person to come in here. Anupriya, I had a I just last week, I co-moderated a very large seminar for where all the proceeds went to We Care Foundation, where we were discussing things with a doctor, with the founder of We Care, and with, patient advocates, those who had gone through cancer themselves. And one thing that came out very clearly was that abroad, a psychiatrist and a psychologist are an inherent part of an oncology team that that one patient has. It's a team of doctors, and one of them will 101% be a psychiatrist and a psychologist. It seems that in our country we have nothing like that.
No,
So
we don't.
this patient advocate was telling us he lost his wife last year, and he is really fighting now with authorities to bring this in, that you can have all your treatments and you can have the best medicine, but if you do not provide the mental health support that people need, all of this is going to come to naught.
Yeah.
So how do we educate people in this? And do you face a lot of it in your line of work as a therapist? People are like, even to come to me as a counselor, people will say, please don't let my friend know she comes to you. Don't let her know that I'm coming to you. It's like almost like, oh my God, I am, I'm committing some kind of a sin or something. So what do you feel about this?
First of all, I mean, like in our country, the boundaries between psychologist, clinical psychiatrist, social worker, when I started training, I worked in an interdisciplinary team. So there was a different art therapist, music therapist, drama therapist, all in the expressive arts therapy team that was looking after the clients and patients in the hospitals. So there is no such boundary because there is no legalization. I mean, as I said, there are only 8 to 9 trained drama therapists in the country, but there are a lot more self-proclaimed ones who will. And there is a reason, right? Like Sanaeya said, what's the difference between going to a music class and a music therapist? It both feel good intuitively. And it's very important, to keep that in mind, to think about the uselessness of therapy while you're thinking about the usefulness of it.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, it has to be useful for you. If it's not useful for you, then it's useless. Khatam. If the therapist is not holding space for you to be your authentic self, is what, like the word that was resonating with, be who you are, be exactly, express the way you want to, is basically in therapy finding that space of being comfortable with with expressing authentically. I'm feeling this, I'm feeling this. I have no filter behind that expression. I'm allowing myself to authentically engage with what I am feeling. So I'm saying this mainly because there are 2 things that was sitting in my body. A, the realization that healing can only happen in relationship. Freudian slip. Really take this through. If you think that you can heal on your own alone, you can't. End of story, period. Even if you're healing within yourself, you're always healing in relationship of one role to another that you play. Or if you're healing in a relationship with an external force, you're in a relationship. So healing does not happen without relationship. Whatever you look at, be it someone who's surviving cancer or experiencing trauma or experiencing depression. Like a lot of people say depression is just sadness, hopelessness intensified. Depression is a sustained way of feeling hopeless, depressed, sad because of a buried sense of shame and guilt that is contributing. You cannot keep shame and guilt away from the diagnosis of depression. They are inherently built in, to the point that you don't even recognize that that compassion is exactly what your authentic self needs. And the voice that I play as the therapist is to be the voice of compassion. Hey, right now, this is why you're being so harsh on yourself. What can you say right now in this moment that would help you? I'm not going to offer what that answer would be. You tell me what that answer is for you in this moment. And you say, oh, this is it. So this is your moment of epiphany that I am facilitating for you. Unlike a music class or a drama class or a dance class where you come on people, warm up your body, everybody left and right, where they'll give you clear structure and clear rhythm to the way you feel. The structure here I'm providing is a safe space. Whether it be through art, the abstraction or concretizations you make in art, or the story you tell, or the poem you write with me, or the letter you write to another part of yourself that you want to have a conversation with, that is your process. And therefore, every client, I could have 300 clients from the spectrum of trauma, but each one will be different. And I will have to go back to understanding who that person is, who that person authentically represents in that moment. Always.
And that understanding comes from you understanding yourself and your process.
Absolutely. I am in therapy every day. Like yesterday, one of my therapy friends also messaged me saying that you don't need to earn your own validation. And that was such a beautiful reminder for me to take back on my own held sense of shame and guilt in this conversation. I'm like, yeah, 1 second. Who am I asking for validation from inside me? And saying that, listen, I'm not powerful actually enough to do this. So I won't do it. I'll just hello, no. Who is this voice? Why is this voice telling you you can't do it? And why is this voice telling you to validate it? So and this is all internal. This is not an external voice. Something like, and I'll come to the external voice. Farida spoke about, malinformation that is sitting in the society, wrong information. Just pure. People think that you a lot of people are unaware when you are a victim or a survivor of sexual abuse. Your body, because remember I said the body only
Yes.
protects, ejaculates to help you be comfortable in that painful experience. It's not orgasming. It's not having an orgasm. It's not like, Farida explained what an orgasm is symbolic of: the power, the pleasure, the beauty of who you are, and owning that truly in that sense, right? Authentically. A lot of people don't know that. So, including me, when I was actually processing my story of surviving uh, sexual trauma, when I took it to my therapist, I was like, oh yeah, that's what happened. But my mind told me something else, because my body was reacting separately, but my mind was like not wanting to be there. So I didn't understand. I thought, yeah, that person owns me. That person in that moment has all power and authority over me. But therapy was that place of finding objective distance to reclaim that balance, reclaim my sense of power, reclaim my sense of, this is what I hold. This is not changing. People can come, people can go, people can take, and life can go as fluctuatingly, as unplanned, as unpredictable as it wants to be. But I am constant. My body is constant through every conversation. Therefore, how do I empower this guy?
Wow.
So that is what Dr. Drama is for me, because I recognize that a lot of people may not understand, and that's perfectly fine, because even I didn't understand it till I did. So my whole hope with Dr. Drama is not only to make drama therapy, and how playful, and yes, therapy is messy and all, but we can play and find the aesthetic distance, the safety we need, the balance we need. If we as and when we want it, I can bring a puppet in and talk on my behalf. And it's also to not just make the conversation accessible, but to correct. One of the roles I play is advocacy. So I have a huge time helping clients recognize and advocate for themselves when they are meeting an unethical therapist. I just letting them know that ask for their credentials, ask for, what they're doing, what is their preferred medium, what does their medium do. I'm an existentialist psychotherapist. Wow, amazing. Now how is that going to help me? I don't understand. Please explain.
Yeah.
So then you like a lot of people hold that stigma, right? That, I'm not crazy, I'm just here to like understand what's going on with me, okay? So don't judge me. And I have to let them know that no, it's about whatever you need from the space. So take what you can, and let it be about what you need it to be. So what I do therefore in Dr. Drama is just to put up these posts on Instagram, put up these documentaries with other therapists who've spoken more insightfully than I have over the last 2 hours almost about this, and make sure that people can reach this conversation in their own way. A lot of people, one of my research right now is in the area of using cell phones for therapy. A lot of therapists say, switch off your cell phones and put it away. But guess what? Right as soon as the session is over, that person is back on their cell phone.
Yeah.
And the cell phone is like that security blanket that everyone is holding. It holds all that conversation. It's the messages, it's the work, it's the everything of that person's. And how you relate to that phone is so symbolic of your relationship with yourself in so many ways. Are you engaged with just your work role, or are you on WhatsApp connecting with your family? It's such a simple way to check in, but that's one of the research areas that I've had and I've been offering to people. So it's basically collaboration, innovation, advocacy, because you can't empower yourself alone. You need to heal in relationship and empower. If you are empowered, then find that way of seeing the community grow with you, because you got to.
And
There's no
isn't
way
that
out.
what we're doing here, helping everyone around us grow with us? And that's so true, Anupriya. And I absolutely remember this, Anupriya, when years ago I started therapy, and then I took therapy, of course, for 3 years. The first session I had with my therapist, I said, see, I've not come here for therapy or any of this crap, right? I have only come to you as a sounding board. I just want to speak. And the therapist said, yes, I'm fine. I will not say a word. You just speak. And of course, that's exactly what I needed, because then that I just need to speak went on for the next 3 years. And, but it's so right that, we start off therapy from, each one starts off from a different position. And then, of course, I went on to have a therapist who was so quirky that he just resonated with me completely. In the middle of a therapy session, he would burst into song and he would start singing. Then I'm saying something and suddenly he would say, la 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 Bacardi rum. And it was just, that is what I needed to connect to something I was not connecting with. And he was just so out of the box. And that was so what I needed. That, and this is what I want to tell people. Go and shop around for the therapists.
Yeah.
Don't go with the first one. My first therapist was a lovely lady, but too structured and too cerebral, and just could not fit with her. Whereas he was just so wacky and so quirky, and then just appealed to me, So Vanita, who is responsible for bringing mental health and emotional health and bringing all of this into the foray of the community in a very, very active manner? Should it be us, you and I, and people like us? Should it be the government? Should it be educational institutions? Who is responsible for this eventually?
All of that, because a woman's empowerment starts with herself. But there has to be a fertile ground for it. The messaging has to be there right from our schools, to our children, to our young adults, because stereotypes are what we have seen so far. We need to embrace all of that diversity which we are talking about. We need to embrace it. It's happening now when young people or even middle-aged and elderly people are embracing their sexuality, their various aspects of sexuality, the patriarchy which we have seen. It's very difficult to come out from that in our collective consciousness. But that doesn't also mean that we have to resort to extreme forms of activism, or, any kind of sloganeering or something. I don't feel that is the right way, because feminist movements have done what they have to do around the world and in India. They have been at the forefront. There are some very hard-won battles that have required, we have got the required legislations, we've got the required laws and everything due to this, no doubt. But as a society matures, there is a need to inculcate this into every aspect. So we need to see how we can bring this where we live, where we work, where we play, and where we learn. In our homes, our mothers have to make it equal and unique. We have to celebrate the uniqueness of the masculine and the feminine and anyone in between. And the children need to see these role models in our society, not just of activism, but possibly even of some quiet achievement. Women being able to contain more, women being able to nurture more of each other, support each other, because I feel that these are very powerful messages that we can give out. We need to support vulnerable women as much as celebrate the empowered women. So our educational policy has to look into it more clearly. There is no other way to it. There could be some nodal centers. I imagine this, community centers maybe run by in a private-public partnership or something like that, where there's education, where there's extracurricular activities, sporting activities, where the male and the female and everything mixed together, they are able to express themselves maybe in drama therapy or in music therapy, free of religion, free of politics. That would be the ideal way in which, as a society, we can go forward. But we need to raise this consistently in our dialogue whether with educational institutions or authorities in bureaucracy, government. There is no other way to it. We have to do this, and we have to bring it where we live, where we are. We have to bring that equality there.
And Vanita, how do you people as suicide prevention helpline, as therapists, what roles would you people play in forcing the governments to come out with things, with curriculum, let us say, in schools, where this stigmatization of mental health issues and, going to a therapist, all of that is removed? We need to force our government to bring this in at a child's level so that they grow up knowing that it's okay. I remember when I was in school,
Yeah.
Vanita, the ones who used to go for remedial teaching or the ones who used to go for counseling. Now the government has said, okay, schools have to have a counselor. But
It's a laugh. It's a laugh.
I know of some schools where the counselors are just literally a laugh. And
Yes.
I know myself, I used to pull up not only students, I used to pull up teachers and office staff who would talk so demeaningly to those students who had to go, to the counselor, or who had to take remedial help. I mean, when you are telling the child that, your very body language is telling the child that, oh, there must be something wrong with you, that's why you're going to a counselor. How can we make our adults go to counselors and therapists? It's not going to work. So how do you think you guys can play a part in pushing this forward?
Actually, it's absolutely right what you said about making this and kind of an effort where everything can happen at the school level. As Suicide Prevention Helpline, we ourselves are, kind of keeping it, struggling to even have a nodal center for ourselves. We all are operating within our own, nodal bodies. We don't have a kind of a national body, so to say. So what we need to do is, of course, we need to have a national policy, like a national education policy. We should have a national mental health policy, possibly, and then bring that down to the state, bring that down to the community, bring that down to where we are, so that it is like a rigor. A person goes through a 10th board exam or goes through an exam every day, every year. They should be able to go to a therapist, once in 3 months or once in 6 months. That would be the most ideal thing, because mental health gets clubbed in with physical health. Like in Karnataka, for example, we have, the government of Karnataka has got a 100-seater helpline for health problems, but mental health is part of physical health. So how much of help are they really providing? We don't know.
Yeah.
And I resonate with what Anupriya said about the qualifications of, providing that help also.
Absolutely. I've come across some quite horrific accounts from
Yes.
my clients. I mean, I am just shocked that this kind of a therapist actually exists.
So if anybody wants therapy, I'm just going to quickly and say that, oh my God, I lost my point. But just to add to it, Vanita was talking about unethical therapists. I have a lady right below in my lane who gives head massage for $300 and then head therapy for $500. So please ask for qualifications, because you never know when you're meeting an MA in drama therapy from New York University or head massage come head therapy specialist. Okay, and also just to add to what Vanita is saying from the drama therapy lens, there's some exciting stuff happening to actually build administration in the government right now and to have a legal and ethical framework of functioning. So for the dance movement therapy space, there's Indian Association of Dance Movement Therapy that has been concretized by people who are trained professionals. They're doing a lot of work on advocating what ethics should look like for anybody who's practicing as a dance therapist or a dance therapy practitioner or a therapeutic movement facilitator. Basically, dance therapist masters, dance movement therapy practitioner 1-year diploma, and the last scale of therapeutic movement facilitators are people who've done certification programs. So there are 3 classifications of trainers that are available right now and therapists available in the country right now. So IADMT, the Art Therapy Association of India, or TATAI, which is a collection of visual art therapists right now coming together in India. There are only, I think, 7, 8, I'm not sure, but you should, if you look them up, they are a trust that have formed to also structure and help support art therapy. There's a lot of people who are doing art-based therapy, which is very different from visual art therapy, and which is very different from expressive arts work. It's not, can you see therapy is missing in that word altogether? So there's very different interpretations that people are having. So be sure of cross-verifying the terminology because there are associations. Now, drama therapy, as of December 2019, the Indian Drama Therapy Collective, which I am a representative of, has become a part of the World Alliance of Drama Therapy. So we are not only looking at national resources that we need to build and conversations that we need to build, we're looking at Taiwan, Japan, Australia, New Zealand. Drama therapists from across the world are sitting together quarterly, quarterly meaning every 3 months in the year, to check in on what they are doing to empower the world at a larger context. So these are some, these are very quiet things that are happening. So we don't really talk about them as much, but I'm sharing this with you all so that you all know that there are people having this conversation. And there are people who are daily like advocating it. So ek baar pucho to sahi, batati hu. Like ask and you shall receive.
Superb. And Zenobia Nankani has said the anthroposophic art therapy is under HATA Association, requires a therapist to undergo a 4-year training program along with personal therapy of about 52 hours a year. And I know Zenobia personally, and she's a fabulous art therapist. Thank you for that, Zenobia. And thank you for that, Anupriya. This is heartening to know that these things are happening. It's just very heartening to know that this is happening. Farida, some last words from you. I'll come around to the panel.
Last words are, I had written something, and it's about the woman and the man both.
Yeah.
So when women lose themselves, the world loses its way, literally. We are the voices of our ancestors. Literally, we come with all of that. And we need to tell ourselves the buck stops here. So if I want to change something, I will first try to do that change in my circle. India is a very complex nation. We are talking about a population which is unimaginable, right? So there is, if we're talking about the mental health, there is a complete, it's like this. It's not available to everybody.
Yeah.
Right. So if I'm sitting here, there's also a domestic help who's coming in my home who has absolutely no knowledge.
Yeah.
I'm not only a drawing room conversation, right? Need to get into that segment of the society as well.
Yes.
So for me, it's about every man, every woman, they need to work in tandem with each other. The support which Sanaeya was talking about is so true, because that's what I had written. What we are actually lacking in our system is lack of support. Families to begin with.
Yeah.
So my parting words are that we are the voices of our ancestors. Change it. We are the torch bearers. We need to change the story now. That story that is coming down, it needs to change. And each one of us has that ability to change that story. So thank you so much.
And that is what Ho'oponopono is all about. Clean, erase the voice of your ancestors. Clean, erase. Absolutely true. And Sanaeya, last words from you.
I think for me, I want to break this up into 2. I'd like to take this with those that are experiencing any kind of mental health burden, right? Whether that is anxiety or depression or self-harm or whatever have you, right? As well as those around those people. right? I feel like at the end of the day, it's the same. I'll get to that, but I'd like to separate the two. For those that are experiencing the anxiety or experiencing the depression, even if it's in its early stages, or if you're knee deep in like 15 and 20 years in,
Yeah.
every single time, every single day, it comes to acceptance. It's accepting that you feel this. It's accepting that I spent so long just being angry at it. And then something Anupriya said about the trauma has happened in the past, right? So I spent all that time just being angry about it. And then you just get to a stage that, can you fix it? There is no fixing it. You cannot go back. We don't have that tech yet. Once we do, I'm sure we can, and we'll figure it out and we'll nail it. Until then, we have to sort our shit out right now.
Yes.
Right? So if it's just accepting, so if you need to do whatever it is that you need to do, experience it, feel it, accept it, and do what is right for you at that moment. It doesn't matter if you are expected by XYZ to do stuff, whether it's work commitments, personal commitments, what have you. Just do what works for you at that moment and know that that's okay. That is completely okay. And I say this because today I feel good. Tomorrow I could be absolute low, and my friends will have to tell me all of this again, which they do for years. It's been the same thing. But in this moment, feeling the way I am, honestly, it's all about just being okay. If you don't feel like doing XYZ, step back and don't do it. You don't owe them anything. Right? And then coming to the second part of, if you are someone that has a friend, sibling, sister, brother, whatever, right, that is feeling like this. It's awful because we know this, but it's something we have to accept. There is stigma that comes with it, right? There is guilt, there is shame, because it's just the society we live in. Why? But we can't change that right now. We are all trying. I feel like as a generation, we're really trying. We're moving in a positive direction towards acceptance and empowerment. However, it still comes with that, should I really tell them that? Will it be okay? I'll just end up feeling worse. Know that it may, almost 80% that person is feeling that, right? Be considerate about that. Allow them to open up to you. Just be there and accept them. You may not even understand what that person is going through. You don't need to, because this journey is not about you. Right? I feel that is such an important thing for so many people, and what so many people don't get. It is not about you. I don't care if you have the most valuable insights and most valuable advice. I don't need it right now. Right? Just you sitting there is adding so much value and protection and support to my life at that moment. That is what the person needs. And I feel like, especially talks like this, where people are maybe uncertain about how should I approach it, because we've also become a society that's a little walking on eggshells now, because we also don't want to hurt the other person. Just be there. If you have to be silent, if you have to just do a gesture, the gesture will count 10 times more than any advice you can possibly throw on that person, right? So even if you may not get it, because I understand any kind of mental issue, right? Issue is a horrible word, but just lack of better word, right? You may not understand it because sometimes when you're in the midst of it, the person can't articulate it. They can't make sense of it themselves, right? So how are they supposed to tell you what they are feeling? Understand that, be considerate of that, right? Know that this may be happening in the background.
Yeah.
So just be there. Whether you believe it, whether you understand it, whether you have stuff to offer from your own life experience, all they need at that very moment when they're speaking to you is acceptance and support. That is all.
Thank you, Sanaeya. Thank you. And this is exactly what you have taught me through the years. And you still continue to teach me. Thank you. Vanita, and we round it off with your last words.
I'll just take it forward from all these beautiful young women who, Sanaeya, Anupriya, Farida, and you, Elle. I have learned so much from you. Um, from my experience, it is about listening to your feelings. They are valid. Every feeling is right. Every emotion is telling you something. Investigate that, what that emotion is telling you. Seek out that strength of your own inner being, because you are unique. There is no one like you, and there will never be another person like you. So you are enough, you are perfect, just as you are. We have heard it many times. I guess we need to hear it again and again, that every person is special, every person is unique. That's all that I have to say.
Thank you, Vanita. And that is so true. My mantra these days, and I'm telling everyone this, is I am enough. That's it. I am enough. And if you're not enough for someone else, that is their burden to bear. It's not your burden to bear. I am enough. So living with acceptance, with recognition of another's pain, recognition of your own pain, recognition of your own challenges, acknowledging those challenges. However empowered you are, there will be days when you will feel totally disempowered. Accept those days. Those are amazing days, because those are days when you learn so much about yourself. And as Sanaeya says, the next day when you feel empowered again, hey, this is another day to share your power with someone. So accept both the days, accept everyone, accept yourself. Anupriya, Sanaeya, Farida, Vanita, I cannot tell you how grateful I am to all of you, how joyous I am to have had this opportunity. I mean, I am reading these messages that are coming again and again and again from all our participants about how much they have enjoyed this, how important this is. Someone has said repeatedly, I'm walking away with so much food for thought. This has empowered me. This is an amazing panel discussion. Thank you, participants, for giving us this opportunity. But please do not let the empowered women stop here. You and I, as Farida started this, we are all empowered. We may not feel that all the time. Let's not pressure ourselves to feel that all the time. It's absolutely fine to feel weak at certain times. Reach out for help. That has been my greatest learning in my life. I have grown when I have allowed myself to reach out for help. I have grown when I have allowed myself to tell my story, to say, hey, I am feeling this. Help me, I need help. So we are all there. There are many of us who are there to help you. Vanita, there have been people who have messaged on the group that they would like to start a suicide prevention helpline with your help in Pune and in Hyderabad, and I'm sure in other places as well. Anyone who needs our help, please, I shall be putting the information and contact details of all our panelists tomorrow with the video recording. Please reach out to them. I know they will help you. Reach out to them for whatever help you need. At least they can put you in the right direction. So thank you very, very much, all of you. Thank you, panelists. Thank you, participants.
Thank you.
Thank you. Wonderful.
Thank you, Elle. Thank